The reincarnation of spirits, the ghost world, and life after death. In this video, an explanation of different cases of reincarnation. What is reincarnation of spirits and the symptoms of having a ghost with you. Within each person, there's an entity that speaks with him, talks to him, and predicts his life events. Within each person, there's a certain amount of transparency. Then the darkness of our lives and our life issues shade it, hiding our transparency, and we find ourselves swimming in the middle of nowhere. We get lost without even noticing, and all we have learned from our long journey is that we are just walking. And when our path is interrupted, a part of us is taken away, and we believe that it's coming, but we do not welcome its visit. It is death. Here is death making a dark cloud over our future, and we try to deny its existence. Although we know that no matter how long we live, it's so close to us. At any time it knocks on our doors. Some people claim there is no death, even when souls part bodies. They think we exist in our deeds and our ghosts. First, let's discuss the incarnation of spirits to reveal the mysteries that lots of people have deluded, not because it doesn't exist, but for the incapability of explaining them. The reincarnation. We often hear at different times and places about people who have experienced a psychological condition, a trauma, or an accident on their heads that turns them to another person's, as speaking a language and suddenly after what happened speaking another language, forgetting his personality and name. In most cases have paradoxes, and we do not know what the secret is. The question here is this a reincarnation of spirits, or is this the soul itself? And here are some of these situations. The first case is an Arabian case in Golan, Syria, about a 3-year-old boy who is said to be murdered, and his soul showed how he was killed in details. His family wanted to make sure of his words because the situation was weird to them in all ways. 4 years later, they found the axe that was used to hit him. Later, the boy took them to the person who killed him. It is worth mentioning that this child was born with a tattoo on his head where he was hit. Jamie, the young child. He had fear of water and seas, but he was obsessed with the Titanic ship, and he used to draw it many times in all its cases. He used to narrate events on the ship, and he used to mention some faults in the construction, claiming it was the reason for the sinking. He said that the ship had to be built of steel and not of iron. He also recounted the many events that took place on the ship. So they brought him a toy in the form of the Titanic ship design, and they got surprised that he was aware in full details of all the corridors and rooms of the ship. They knew from his words that he was personifying an engineer called Thomas Angelus, and that he was an Irish ship designer who helped in designing the Titanic ship. He had already recommended that the ship should be built of steel instead of iron, and he died drowning with the Titanic victims. City, a famous Egyptian realistic story that you can search for it yourself. Dr. Zay Hawass wrote an article in Al-Ahram newspaper about it while he was working with her when he was young, who was impressed by her abilities to read hieroglyphics and with her information about the science of exploration and excavation. In his article, he said that one day she visited them and had lunch with them. She said that her father used to believe she was crazy and sent her to many psychiatrists. She left England when she was young, came to Egypt and worked in Giza with the famous Egyptian Egyptologist Salim Hassan. She married an Egyptian man and gave birth to her son, Siti. She achieved a lot after working in the same temple she used to live in as a pharaonic woman. She revealed to them some archaeological sites and showed them the gardens of the temple of Pharaoh Seti first. She also showed them a private library full of books from all civilizations below the temple of Seti. Furthermore, she showed them the king's tunnel under the garden of the temple. All this has caused controversy for many people. It's possible to hear a lot of stories about these cases. Some people said it was karma, others thought it was the state of reincarnation, as the Jews. While some believe that a man can live more than one life, the question is, can a human live in another body? And is it possible to happen actually? Is there really something called karma, and is there reincarnation? What is the spiritual interpretation of the cases we have mentioned? Is it possible to be real, or it is just a myth? Many questions are asked, but all the answers refer to the soul and what it is. This is what we are going to discuss in our article titled, "The Soul is Far from Any Myth." And they ask you about the soul. Say, the soul is of the affair of my Lord, and mankind have not been given of knowledge except a little. A small verse, but with a deep meaning. The soul is of God, and it consecrates the command of God. It is the entity that brings you into life, and in every creature. Everything that moves has an entity and a soul of God's command. If man knows the soul, he can control any other entity on earth. He can control the rotation of the earth, or make mass deaths, or mass births. The soul secrets must not be given in order to preserve the life cycle and to keep everything going by God's command. The soul is the link that makes you close to God and believe that God is closer to you from your own vein, just because your soul is from Him. And if God lets us know the entity and the soul, God will not be the eminent, as He called Himself, because it would be able to feel God Almighty excessively. If we know the soul, we can control the living and the dead, so humans cannot know what the soul is. Speaking about the soul, we must give it its divine value and its rightful position. Only God has the ability to see the soul. It is the science above all human sciences. Whatever our knowledge of the earth's sciences is, yet we have known a little so far. The difference between the soul and the ethereal body. After the discovery of a worm called planaria, the discovery has sparked people's controversy. As if you bring this worm and cut it into 4 or more pieces, each piece will turn into a worm. Many atheists used to prove that the soul is just a mess. The question was, how does not the soul come out of the worm? And can the soul be divided into pieces? They did not meditate. They did not realize that the soul is much more than an engine of every living being. The soul is the source of life for everything, and we cannot know its secrets because these secrets belong to God only. If you descend underground, you will see the bacteria, a living being derived from the divine entity. If you go down the caves, you see different creatures made by God. Some of them are known, others are still unknown to us. They all derive the source of their lives from the divine entity, the indivisible entity. Yet, we do not know its name or its place. The soul is at every point, every dimension, every time and every place. We can only meditate, and we do not know anything about it. How can it wander in the earth? We do not know how it moves. We do not know any details about it, as God only knows everything about it. God is closer to us even than ourselves, and God knows everything about us, yet we know nothing. There is no power except through God, who can only control the soul. Questions abounded about the soul after medicine knew chimera. Many of us confuse the soul with the ethereal body and call it spiritual body because it's intangible. Spirituality is esoteric science. Why did God create the Quran? Quran is an Arabic word that means a constant companion. Does the Quran have a soul? The Quran, or the ether, is an integral part of you. The life of you and your Quran are part of your entity and soul. The chimera, an ancient Greek myth in the spiritual sciences. Chimera is a famous creature in ancient Greek mythology. It is made of 3 animals. Chimera consists of a lion's head, a goat's body, and a snake's tail. The Greek civilization used the chimera to describe a monster that kills children. There are many legends and fairy tales, including true and untrue ones. The true ones are that chimera describes some humans that we will explain them to you in details. In 1950, the world began to pay attention because of a Danish player who represented her country in the 1950 Olympics. When it was discovered that her body cells were male cells, so her name was omitted, and the medal was withdrawn, and her innocence was proven after her death. After examining her body, many researchers have found out that in some cases the embryo in the uterus is made of 2 fertilized ova, and they become 2 embryos after the fetuses are formed, either to remain in the body and they became 2 non-identical twins, or that one of the 2 embryos disappear completely and the mother's body absorbs the cells of the other embryo with no symptoms felt by the mother, and this situation is called vanishing twin syndrome. The third possibility is that one embryo feeds on the other one and merges with the other embryo with its tissues and DNA to merge into one body. If one of them is male and the other is female, some of its cells are female and the others are male. It is also possible that some of the organs are male and the others are female, as what happened with the Danish player, when no one was able to determine whether it was a male or a female. Also, the body can have 2 blood groups, and it can affect the shape, so that one eye color differs from the other, and this does not happen to humans, but to animals, and this condition is called a chimera. A Danish study confirmed that 1/3 of humans are chimera, and 100 cases of chimera have been detected and confirmed. They were discovered and recorded in the medical history. The cases were attributed to some autoimmune diseases such as lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, and myasthenia, and most of them confirmed that chimera is the cause of facial asymmetry, such as eye color difference or disorientation of some organs. Here, modern medicine began to ask, does the chimera have 2 souls? This was the physical meaning of chimera. What is the meaning of spiritual chimera? A scientist in the Soviet Union discovered something new. Simon Clarion and his wife invented a very high-speed imaging device that could convert the non-electrical phenomenon into an electrical phenomenon, so that it could be imaged. This device is called the Clarion device, named after its inventor. Using this device, an ethereal shape similar to a tree leaf was photographed. Then the tree leaf was pulled and cut at a sharp angle. It was then rephotographed to show that the ethereal form of the paper is still complete. as it is, and that it was not affected by the process of cutting that occurred to the leaf, or actually to its outer physical form. A lot of scientists and doctors were interested in these issues, and the American philosopher William James, who conducted research on 285 amputees. He said that the feeling of the amputated organ remains after the amputation for different periods. The 70-year-old man has been feeling the presence of his amputated thigh since he was 3 years old, with the same strength and clarity at the other thigh. The Italian scientist Ernesto Pisano discussed this issue in one of his books entitled Phenomena of Double Organs. He says that the feeling of a ghost organ can sometimes be complete, other times it's less complete. Here we understand that every physical body has an ethereal body. The ethereal body exists even if the physical part is detracted. It does not detract from the ethereal body, and it remains complete even if the part of the physical body has been detracted. Hence we know that Chimera people have a double ethereal body. A Zuhri person is a Chimera person with a double ethereal body and a Clarion. His abilities are higher, his spirituality is higher, and his insight is stronger than any natural person. All of this is just because of the phenomena of Chimera that occurs since his birth. The symptoms of a Zuhri person are: the person has 2 blood groups. His body is composed of 2 DNAs. Half of his face can be different from the other half. It can have an eye of a different color than the other one, and his body may have a male and female organs. He always fears those in front of him, whether lying or telling the truth. However, the case of those in front of him is, if he is far from him, he feels duplicated. As for his qualities, he is moody and he changes opinion frequently. He always sees the answer to any asked question in his dreams. He has a strong intuition and clear insight. Some cases of Zuhri may be similar to those people who have strong sensory abilities, resulting from their ability to focus, train, and practice in strengthening the paired body by the Clarion. A Zuhri person does not mean that he is a special one. On the contrary, most of those who have strong sensory abilities dealing with the paired body or a double ethereal body do not understand the language of the paired body and do not know how to control their abilities. Just as if you are on a plane and your information is so simple, almost non-existent or even not existing about flying the plane. This always makes most of them in danger. This danger lies in their ignorance of the language of the paired body. Why don't we define reincarnation as a duplication of a Clarion? Something that can be somewhat tangible and more convincing. The ethereal body is present. It exists in every living being, and it is attached to the Clarion. We know that everyone has a Clarion, but we know nothing about it, other than that it's a wicked punk or an infidel or a Satan. We explain that to let you understand what the Clarion is. The meaning of a Clarion in Arabic is the inseparable consort with you. It is possible that the Satan is your consort, but it's not your Clarion. It's possible that you can contact more than one consort, but you have only one Clarion, which is yours, and its job is to translate the frequencies of the ethereal aura and prepare events around you. The subconscious is the means that makes you feel its existence. And you must know that the Clarion that we mean is your spiritual body. But what is the benefit of the paired body? The answer is, the Clarion is a reason for the continuation of your life while you sleep. Since your mind is something electrochemical, it is a reason for the energy supply to your physical body organs. It is a reason that makes your heart beats involuntarily for the mind to function. You must think in the state of consciousness and unconsciousness. Then your heart turns the thoughts and ideas into feelings, which makes your heart beat. And you realize that if you stop thinking, your heart may stop functioning. However you think, whether about something you see with your eyes or hear with your ears, or even something you touch, it is important to realize that everything happening around you makes the mind function, as it is responsible for the transformation of any life event into energy and makes your body organs function too. Hence, you understand that if you stay away from events, your mind is going to stop turning the event into energy, and maybe it suffers death. So God created unconsciousness and the paired body even when the events stop. Your mind has thoughts and feelings during your sleep. In case that there are no events, the mind gets energy from the events of your paired body, so you can see and hear while sleeping, and translate what you see and hear as a dream. To interpret dreams, professionals interpret them according to how much the inner matters behave, and this is what we will explain in detail soon. But if you do not dream, this means that you are used to material ideas, and that your mind used to give up dreams for days, because it has enough energy. But if you are thinking about something that is difficult to solve, your mind and consciousness stop explaining and solving the problem. The unconscious and the paired body then show up to solve it. Now you have learned the first rule, which is if the conscious is present, the unconscious is absent. If you want to bring unconsciousness, you must keep the consciousness away from any event and stop the mind from thinking. Therefore, animists prefer exercise, sanctums and retreats that bring them closer to the unconsciousness. Thus, you have understood the first basic function of the paired body. The second function is the setting up. Throughout the ages, many people took advantage of others by setting up or configuring a group of people inwardly. The setting was first discovered when someone did a research for a film, where he used the inward setting up to make people implement some of the orders through hidden messages. The film was made by sending subtle messages to the subconscious in the form of orders in a way no viewer can notice. And the orders were ordinary, as a message saying, if you're hungry, eat popcorn, or if you're thirsty, drink Coca-Cola. They discovered that everyone who watched the film implanted the hidden messages, and here the world concealed the meaning of the setting process, so that most people implement the hidden messages. The events in which humans are subjected to this process seem to us to be coincidences, but they were actually a process of setting the subconscious up, they making us indirectly do what we are asked to. Many events and coincidences have many mysteries that we have noticed throughout history and has remained to this day a real mystery. Some stories and people of those are known and familiar, as our world has lots of wonders and tales. We all know Titanic, but most of us do not know that before the Titanic was a true story. It was a fictional novel called Fertility by an author called Morgan Andrew Robertson. He wrote it in 1898, almost 14 years before the sinking of the Titanic. The novel is about the sinking of a ship called Titan. Titan was the same as Titanic, where it was described as unsinkable. In the novel, Titan didn't have enough lifeboats, as Titanic also. Titan in the novel collided with a glacier in the North Atlantic, in which Titanic had her collision in the same place. After that, many people who knew the novel and the coincidence panicked, yet it became a mystery so far. It is also possible that these coincidences are of people and not events. The famous artist Zubaydah Sarwat is a replica in the form, qualities and the personality of the actress Jennifer Lawrence. It is possible that a coincidence may contain hidden messages that some people use to repeat the event later, as in the American cartoon series The Simpsons. An episode about President Trump's nomination was produced in 2000. Then in 2015, the events in real life were very close to the past episode. Was it a coincidence, or was it planned with a hidden message? We have learned that many people have a necklace that enhances their abilities in identifying the Quran, making themselves a setting up that makes them able to facilitate their affairs and makes them able to send hidden messages in order to control anyone. And this is the first chapter of learning spiritual sciences. Here you understand that setting up is the reason for this coincidence, and this is close to the cases of reincarnation in one thing, which is the paired body. Since it can set up, it also can be paired with another body like it, and in this case it's called a ghost. Having understood that the soul is an entity that we cannot discover, and that the ethereal body can be duplicated, as in the case of Dorothy and other cases of duplication, and after we prove to you that the chimera person or the Zuhri is more powerful than normal people due to the duplication of his body, now we completely deny the soul reincarnation, and the reason for all we see is the duplication of the Quran of your paired body. So you feel that you are someone else. And now let's explain how we know that you have a ghost. Coincidence, from which we know the cases of reincarnation and duplication of the paired body. Recurring dreams. They may be a result of fear or suffering from traumas, and may be reflections of a Korean who has lived in the past and lives with you, as you in the déjà vu. This can be through your ghost or another ghost chasing you, and the repetition of feeling as if it happened to you before is just a means of communication with your paired body. Memories that are misplaced, as if you feel that you go to an ancient pharaonic site, or a house from another era, or feel as if you are supposed to be somewhere you feel it inside you. This is all because of the paired body, or a ghost watching you. The voices in your mind, the smell, or the vision far away from you are all because of the paired body, or a ghost trying to duplicate and communicate with you. The insight and the foresight. To know from your dreams what will happen. This is a result of the paired body, or result of a duplication, and in the case of a chimera. Seeing parts of a story in your dreams about events you are in, but with different place and time, is just a message from a ghost trying to communicate with you. Feeling that you are older than your age, and that someone else is chasing you or watching you, is just because of a ghost trying to communicate with you. Your attraction to a particular culture, face, city, or country is caused by a ghost trying to communicate with you. Phobias and fear of something you have never been hurt, as water in the case of the child Jimmy, is also caused by a ghost who has been hurt by what you are afraid of. After learning that inside you there is an entity, and after you realized whom you talk to, you do not have to fear death, but you will draw closer to God and praise for discovering your identity. If you want to start from now, check our posts and videos on our page, The World of Spirituality, and we can also send you tools to help you discover your abilities. In order to facilitate your life, check our number on WhatsApp.